Hi, my name is Elena Comrie, and my presentation is on disability discrimination. Disability discrimination has been a problem for a really long time. For those of you who don't know what discrimination is, it's when someone is unfairly treated because of something about them. So, for example, black people are discriminated against, and women is another example of something that's discriminated against. Some examples of discrimination against someone with a disability is they can't play on a sports team, play on a music band, or play with a music band or a music group, go to a club or a store, go to school in some cases, or eat at a restaurant. The Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 is a law that says that any discrimination against anyone with a disability is illegal. So all these examples are illegal, but all laws are broken. So the definition of a disability is a mental or physical illness that limits a person's sense, movements, thoughts, etc. The three most common kinds of disabilities are dyslexia, Down syndrome, and ADHD. Dyslexia is when a person gets words, letters, numbers, all those things mixed up in their head. This gives them a really hard time with school and things especially reading. Down syndrome, so dyslexia is a more mental, and Down syndrome is mental and physical because Down syndrome affects the brain and the way you look. Down syndrome is when a person can't talk properly. They can't talk properly. They don't think as well. Their words are kind of slurred. They're smart and everything. They're really smart, but they don't know how to communicate because they just don't know how. They have a flatter nose, smaller mouth, and smaller ears. ADHD is when a person is abnormally hyperactive. This has to do with something with difference in the brain, so it's a mental disability. Some people when people think of a disability, they often think of something like if you're blind or deaf or in a wheelchair or Down syndrome, things that are more extreme like that. But a disability can be something as simple as wearing glasses. So, yeah. Just some information on disabilities. 57 million people in the U.S. have a disability. That's in the U.S., and 15% of the world's population, in the whole world, has a disability. And that's about 1 billion people, and there's about 7 billion people in the world. So that's 1/7. That's kind of a lot. 20% of people in poor countries have a disability. That is a lot of people, and people in poor countries struggle enough, and 20% of those also struggle with a disability. So 98% of children in developing countries with a disability, they don't go to school. Already, most kids in poor countries don't go to school, and when you have a disability, you're almost guaranteed that you're not going to school. 1/3 of street kids are disabled, and this has to do with the fact that when the mother is pregnant, she in poor countries or something, she can't really help, she can barely take care of herself, let alone a baby, and so she does drugs and alcohol, and she doesn't eat healthy or drink clean water. And so when the baby's born, it's born with a disability, and then she can't take care of it, so she just puts it out on the street, and yeah. So all these people have disabilities, and they all have to work 10 times harder than everybody else. And even with that fact, people still discriminated against them. I have 3 real-life examples of discrimination against someone with a disability. So my first example is a woman in a business suit. She is sitting at an airport, and she's probably going on a business trip or something, and she is sitting in a wheelchair. And she's just sitting there minding her own business, and someone walks by her and drops a quarter in her coffee mug. So I think that this person, I'm sure they meant well, but kind of the fact that a lot of people don't realize that they sort of jump to the conclusion that disabled people are so helpless, and they're actually not. And so that's kind of, just thinking that is kind of a discrimination in itself. My second example is a little girl at school. She's at school, and she's looking at pictures of her classmates, and she divides all the pictures into 3 groups. She puts group 1's boys, another group is girls, and the last group is handicaps. So she made a completely different group for handicaps, because handicaps, it doesn't matter if you're handicapped. They should have been put in the boy and girl group. Like, it shouldn't have been 3 groups, it should have just been 2. And this little girl probably just didn't know any better. Probably it was her parents that